Okay, I can give it a shot. I've never introduced myself as a creator before, but here we go. So hi guys. I am Kinderegard here on YouTube.
So Kinderegard is your YouTube name.
It is. But yeah, I make videos about the books I'm reading, the stuff I'm into book-wise, and I also try to intermingle it here and there with some coffee shops and traveling. But yeah, focusing mainly on what I'm reading.
In today's interview, we're gonna talk about art, literature, music, and all that stuff is kind of related. So
Good
I,
stuff.
I was wondering how do you get so found in literature and art, and was that your family impact you, or was it in school, or maybe some of your closest friends?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I grew up reading all like ever since I was a little child because I grew up surrounded by books. Both my parents are like avid readers themselves. And like also like our house it's like stuffed with books. So like my sister and I like we grew up reading a ton. Like sometimes like there are a few anecdotes that my parents sometimes tell us that like they walked like past our room, for example, because like when we were little we shared a room and they thought that we weren't there because it was so quiet, but actually was just like me and my sister sitting there reading.
Hmm.
So like yeah, from my early childhood days we've always been avid readers. Like I also remember us like always like picking up new books before we went like on a trip or something like that, or like going to the library on the weekends. It was always a good time. But yeah, my friends actually not so much. I feel like all throughout my life my friends have not necessarily been avid readers themselves, so that's also kind of fun for me now that I get to talk about all the books I'm reading, because I'm not doing it really in my private life with my friends because
Oh.
they're not really readers. But now I get to do it here on YouTube.
So you make your reading friends on YouTube now.
Exactly. Like honestly.
um, the story of me stepping into the literature world. I mean, English literature is actually kind of interesting. It was like 2 years ago. I was in a secondhand bookstore, and there
Okay.
was this section of English books, and I saw one. It was like it's called Green Grass of Wyoming. It's a very old book and small, and it was so cheap. It was like €1 and a half,
Perfect.
and I was like, this book is so cheap that I won't feel bad about myself if I can't
If
finish
you
it.
throw it out again.
Yeah, like I wouldn't care. So I just buy it, and fortunately, I finished the book, but my English was not good enough to like understand the entire plot line. But
Hmm.
it's about like American countryside and people riding horses in the 50s and 40s. And lots of
Wow,
nature,
sounds
that stuff.
interesting.
Yeah, and the second English novel I read was Dune. So that was a
Oh, really?
huge leap.
Wow, that's a tough one though. Like all the language they're using and stuff.
Yeah, but I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, people explaining the world, so I didn't have a lot of trouble understanding.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. But yeah, that's actually like another good question. Like the languages you read in, right? Because that of
Yeah,
course differs from everyone. But I like for as long as I can remember, I've only been reading stuff in English actually, or like, I mean, like I at least I don't really read in my native language. At least I sometimes for like practicing purposes try to pick up books in Spanish as well, but I don't do
mhm.
it nearly as often as like English. But yeah, because like all the media I consume, like watching YouTube videos or like watching movies, series, or like also most music, everything's in English, so it feels way more natural to pick up books in
Yeah,
English as well than
me
like
also.
translations. Yeah, right.
I grew up surrounded by Chinese content, but English stuff is also stuff I'm found into. I don't even know why.
Yeah.
So, what was the first book series, or like the first book you were so impressed and like, hey, I've gotta read another one?
Ah, good question. Like I remember like a couple of series I was really into as like a young child. Just like some, I don't know, unicorn and like horse series, like really stereotypical, I suppose. But obviously I don't have like a connection with them anymore. And I suppose the first like really big series that really hooked me on was Harry Potter. I remember reading that when I was still really young, so young actually that like I think it was it only the seventh, like the last part? Actually, like my mom and my sister, who's older than me, they didn't yet want me to read it because like there's a lot of stuff going down in it, right?
Hmm.
But I had like already finished all the other books, and so I needed to read the last book as well, of course. So I like snuck into my sister's room and I got the book, and I always read it when like no one else was at home, so I could read it.
So do you
Yeah,
fantasize
so yeah.
about letters filling up the room from the chimney?
What? Like oh yeah, definitely, like I wanted to receive my letter on my 11th birthday, that's for sure. It never arrived. I suppose it got lost somewhere in the mail. But yeah, Harry Potter, I mean, it's kind of stereotypical maybe for our generation, but that was, it definitely impacted me a lot to this present day.
Yeah, and for me, unfortunately, I'm too old to be Polish ladies. So
uh, oh, the fantasies you grew up with. Like I also remember I was at like a later point really into the Percy Jackson series.
oh.
And by then I of course wanted to be a demigod, but never happened either.
um do you watch a lot of novel adopted movies?
Oh, good question. I actually, no, actually not. I don't watch a lot of movies or like series in general. I think like most of my time I spend on YouTube, to be really honest. I watch
Hmm.
a ton of YouTube, but I don't really watch a lot of movies or series these days. And I also keep rewatching the same stuff over and over again because I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I of course that's also tricky, like with novels being adapted into like movies or series, because that can be like a hit or miss, right? If it's like the way you imagined it, and if it's not like that, you end up hating it.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
I don't remember right now what was like the last adaptation. I suppose like for example, the recent Kenneth Branagh Agatha Christie adaptations. Those ones, of course, were something that I watched. I really liked the first one, The Murder on the Orient Express. That one was fantastic, I think. But the second one that like recently dropped, the Death on the Nile, I was not that big of a fan of, for example. But
Oh, so you watch it?
yeah, I mean, of course, like I heard it was
Oh,
gonna come.
okay.
Like obviously, I'm gonna watch it, but I actually did. I was not obsessed with that second adaptation, but I'm always gonna watch anything
So you're not
animated.
obsessed with Gal Gadot either?
No, actually, no.
Yeah, I'm not obsessed with her either. You grew up watching, reading a lot of English. So, how did that become your like second language? You're almost bilingual, right? We can say that.
Kind of, I suppose, because like I didn't actually grow up speaking English, but because I was exposed to like English media of like all kinds, kind of from a really early point on, and we also like traveled to England or like the United Kingdom in general, like a lot, and then you also landed in school, and like all of those things bound together kind of resulted in me and like also like my sister, for example, picking up English like really fast and really naturally, kind of. And because then like going on in life, all the media I consume is in English, you of course also keep using it and it's omnipresent. So yeah, it has kind of become like second language in that sense.
So, in your previous videos, that you are not upset with Timothy Chalamet. So we can see that popularity is not your core value of selecting content. Then what makes you like found in piece of literature or movies, music, all that stuff?
Yeah, that's actually like a really good question, as in like how you approach also like how you create your content and stuff. Because, for example, Jack Edwards, he's like I think the biggest book YouTuber, and he does a lot of these like reading celebrities, book recommendations, and I think all of these videos they do super well, of course, because you see your favorite celebrity on like a thumbnail and it's like about their books. You're like, hey, hell yeah, I'm gonna like watch that. And I love Jack Edwards and his content, but Yeah, personally, reading for me is like purely for my enjoyment. I pick up the books that I want to read, that I'm interested in, that like pique my interest, right? And I don't, at least like most of the time, I don't want to like force myself to like read stuff that I'm actually like not interested in. And like a lot of these like celebrity book recommendations, they would be books that I actually don't want to read. And if I would like keep forcing myself to read books for content that I'm not interested in, like reading itself, but also like this content creation, it would become like a chore, something that I have to do that's not really
And
fun.
you'll end
And
up hating your job.
exactly. And I don't want it to turn into something like that, because if it were to become something like that, I could not keep this up, I think. So
Um,
that's why the way I approach like how I read my books and how I create content about them, it's just like I read what I like naturally want to read, because I'm always reading, and there are like a ton of books I want to read, and it's just end up reading those, and then I kind of come up with themes. I can connect different books, or I do like reading vlogs, just like focusing on one book.
well,
And so far, it has been working out that way, I hope.
so I was wondering, like, what part of reading interests you? Like, you do it for.
Wow, what a question. Oh, like personally, I'm 100% team plot based versus like character based.
Mm,
So I suppose I'm interested in the stories that are being told, especially if they're like there's like a lot happening. I do love my murder mysteries, and like especially with my murder mysteries, I love this kind of like ingenious process of like the detective picking up all the clues and like linking them together, doing like his smartest thing, right? I love that kind of stuff. I'm less so keen on the like contemporary novels that are solely focused on like character development and all of that. I'm kind of like more plot driven kind of girl. So yeah, I suppose I want that action, so
plot
to say,
driven.
those like fun stories to like entertain me at the end of the day.
But for myself, I'm more of a character
Okay,
driving the
yeah.
plot person.
There are like a ton of people who
Because
love that.
when you focus on a plot, like it may be like won't make a difference, but when you focus on a character, you'll find out. Like if I read the books that you just mentioned about, I'll find out that it's the plot driving the characters, and I kind of hate that because it's not unnatural. Like the author will make the characters make like weird choices, like not not tally to their personalities, and like a bad guy suddenly did some good stuff, and just because the plot needs the protagonist to survive, or
I get what you're saying. Of course, I can understand it, how people are into these character-based books and like are maybe like also interested in the like psychology of like a personality changing and all of that, or like tough circumstances like affecting like a human being and their character. But yeah, I mean, to each their own. I just love my plot-based books.
what kind of aspect of literature you'll pay more attention onto when you're trying to review, like you're reading and you're trying to review this book.
Okay. So to be really honest, I'm like I already kind of insinuated it. I think that I read books for my enjoyment. Like I
Yeah.
want to entertain myself with the books I'm reading. I'm most of the time, I mean, of course, there are always like exceptions to a rule, of course, but like most of the time, I'm not picking up books because I want to like learn something about like a certain time, or like I don't even know what, but it's just like I want to have a good time. So that's how I essentially like rate a book. Like, did I have a good time reading this? It's I don't so like really rate like the writing style or like character development or something
Hmm.
like that. It was just like, did I have a good time reading this? I mean, of course, there are way like other channels that like go way deeper into the book, like kind of like dissecting how like maybe the plot really like develops, or like how the characters change, and maybe like the writing style is really beautiful or anything like that. But actually, to be honest, I don't pay that much attention to these kind of things. It's just like the overall effect that the book and like the reading of the book had on me. If I enjoyed that experience, that's kind of like how I rate a book, like if it was like a good time or a bad time.
Cool. Because in my perspective, Let's take. I watch movies, for example. I always pay attention to the techniques of the director and the crew, and that enjoys me actually because
I get it.
I mean I watch Nolan movies and it's shot on film, and some of the cinematography are just beautiful, and I'll just pause the movie and just stare at it for like 30 seconds, or
Oh, that's great.
yeah,
Yeah, especially like with visual arts such as like movies or series, of course you have this like element that you can see different camera
yeah.
angles, etc. Of course, like in a way that can translate to a book, the way stuff is being described. That do you pay attention to like details like that in books as well?
And I love long shots in the movies. Like
Okay.
I watched 1917 by Sam Mendes, and it was a um, one shot movie. Like of course there was editing, but they looked like a
One
one
shot.
shot movie.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and I was so impressed, and the cinematography was like flawless. So
Really cool. So do you enjoy in books like scenes where it's like
but
one
the
long
plot of that movie
conversation or
was
something?
just one British soldier delivering a letter to a general to pull off an attack. So the plot is
Oh,
that simple. But like you know, not to focus on the plot on these kind of movies, right? Like
of
it's
course,
good
yeah.
in a different way.
I get it.
But if you're like I like to make this analogy. Like if you're watching a Wes Anderson movie and you only focus on the cinematography, like he did a lot of like chronological moves. Like his presence is so strong in the movie. Like you just can't ignore him. Like even
Yeah.
though he's not in frame, like his cinematography was shouting like, "Hey, look at me! It's a Wes Anderson movie." And
That's true. Like I personally, I don't know like a lot about cinematography or anything like that, but like Wes Anderson, he has like such a style. You recognize his work, right?
yeah,
And like
of
also like
course,
to the completely untrained eye, it's just like very pleasing also to watch. Like I recently watched the French Dispatch.
yeah,
Is that what it's called? And I had a like great time. Like you could like plot wise, what is like really about? You have like these different stories that are being told that are like per se not connected, except that they're like all printed in this like one paper.
yeah.
But yeah, it was such a good time watching that movie. Definitely.
They got Timothy Chalamet in
He,
it.
he's in everything right now. To be honest,
Yeah,
though,
he's in
like you
everything.
cannot avoid him.
But I mean, you can't just watch the cinematography in Wes Anderson movie. Like the plotting was also awesome. So if you watch Wes Anderson's movie just for the cinematography, like that's kind of a waste. Even it's pretty good, I suppose. So now let's talk about your music taste. You told me that you're a big fan of K-pop,
I
and
am. I
but to
I
me,
really like
like
it.
everybody hates certain genres. Like some of the K-pop girls hates hip hop, and like us people listen to hip hop thinks K-pop
Hate
is just kind
K-pop.
of like Korean boys dancing and dyeing their hair and put on makeup. That's what K-pop are to us. So, can you explain that why you're so found in K-pop?
Okay, so I at least how I got into it, it also started on that level that I was just having like a good time with a lot of the songs that are like lyric wise they were like not very profound or anything, but I liked the beat, I was having a good time, like especially also like the music videos, they were like visually pleasing to watch because there's so many colors and outfits and choreography, all of that was going on. So that's how I got into it at first, like with Blackpink and stuff like that. I was just like having a good time. But then I discovered also like a different side, so to say, of K-pop because I think especially like a lot of kind of like the pop genre, um, or like pop heavy songs are of course very popular out there, like known in K-pop, but they are like also like K-pop in itself. I think is like way too broad a term because
Yeah,
K-pop is
exactly.
not only pop music. They are like also there's like also K hip hop or like K ballads and like all of that, right?
Yeah,
And
as
like
well as
also
hip hop.
exactly. And like also like the same artist had like also different songs with like different genres and all of that. And at first I was mainly just like listening to like the pop songs that were just like, as I said, like a good time for me. But then I also discovered um, lyrics with like songs with like really profound lyrics that just like were like kind of like eye opener also, or like I saw great performance videos, and I just like really came to appreciate also like the community around a lot of these artists, because like the fan groups are so tightly interknit. I never like experienced anything like that before, like so many people being so, I don't know, supportive of like one group or artist, and also being so kind to one another.
Yeah,
And like I feel
especially
like in
here in
the,
Taiwan. Like we
yeah,
got
I feel like
girl
uh,
classmates I know of, and they like buy their merch, spend um like $100,000 on their merches.
yeah, you can spend a lot on merch, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I also
And
noticed that you got an album back there.
I do. You do recognize it, I
Yeah.
suppose. Um, so yeah, there were like just like different things that kept pulling me in, and I also really liked like this factor about the K-pop world, that there's, you really have kind of like the chance to get the artists better as like people, because there's so much content being put out. Like they have like all of their like variety shows, and they do like their live streams, and there's just like so much content they put out, especially like, compared to like Western artists. Like it's normal that you get like an album every like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and like in between they might go like on one tour, but you don't really hear a lot from like an artist, especially like their personal life necessarily in between, which is like completely fine, of course. But like with K-pop, you just like get so much content that it's also like so easy to become so involved in like the world per
Oh,
se,
so
or like
that's why I get it.
you like really get all wrapped around in it, wrapped up in it, and like all the different stuff that's come out. It's just like such a good time. um yeah, so yeah, I almost exclusively, I think, listen to K-pop these days. But also I'm that kind of person, I like focus my attention on kind of like a few artists at a time, and then I like only listen to them, and then like maybe a couple of years later I find like new artists, and then I only listen to them. So right now I'm like in my K-pop phase, definitely.
I'd like to talk about some of my negative experience in listening to hip hop.
Hmm.
Like there's kind of, and recently there's kind of rise in mumble raps, and to me they're just trash songs and TikTok songs, and I hate that. Like there's no like artistic values in it at all. But there's also like um, lyrical genius like such as Kendrick Lamar and Tyler the Creator, which is making good albums and also selling very well as well. So
Hmm.
have you ever ran into songs like, oh, it's putting shame on this genre?
Ooh, shame on the genre. That's like an extreme term, of course. Um, I couldn't really claim that, but sometimes, of course, there are always certain songs of a special artist that get huge, and other songs are like less well known.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's maybe you feel like this one song that gets really big does not really represent the group or the artist in
yeah,
like
exactly.
all their variety. You kind of like feel maybe like, okay, it's a shame that like most people out there only get to hear like this one song by this artist, but there's
Hmm.
like so much more to them, but
Yeah.
like people don't really experience these other songs. That's kind of like, because I really like BTS, for example, and like the recent songs that got so huge, just like for example Dynamite, and that's such a fun song. It's a good time, but they have so much songs that also have like profound, really deep lyrics, and like Dynamite is not one of them. And
Yeah,
like not every
exactly.
song needs that, of course. Like not every song needs like this profound, soul-searching message. That's, I mean, of
Some of
kind of
the songs
respect.
are just designed to be a heavy hitter and designed to make money.
Exactly, exactly. So
But I mean, not all of these songs are like commercially oriented. Like some
exactly.
of the
And like,
heavy hitters are still high artistic values, and that's what I love about like these kind of music.
yeah, and there's like, but sadly, there's often kind of like this balance that kind of like the maybe not so profound songs that just kind of like a good time, they get like really popular and
Yeah.
people tend to listen to only those. And the ones that have like these really deep messages or like are like artistically masterpieces get less recognition,
Mm.
even though they might be able to represent what this artist is actually capable of way better than this one song that gets really hyped, you know?
And have you ever run into like um, somebody hyping up an album and you're just waiting for so long and it became a disappointment?
Okay, so like I have been waiting for an album and then it dropped and I didn't like it, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Um, mm, I what maybe not like it wasn't that big of a deal. Like this sounds like really, oh my god, I was so disappointed in it. It wasn't like that, of course. But for example, like the last BTS album that dropped, the B album, it wasn't my favorite, just like that. And of course, like I waited, like with all the other fans, one waited for like a really long time. You saw the teasers and like the pictures, and you were like really excited. And then it hit, and it was like not my favorite thing. I still listen to it, and it's fine, and I like it. I also have it standing behind me, but it was definitely not my favorite of all time. Like I think they have a lot of songs that I like way more. But like fortunately, I have never been like 100 or like though with like the last like Pink thing that dropped. It was like the first album they released after like 3 years of radio silence, and that dropped, and I basically like none of the songs. That was kind of like disappointing. Yeah, of course that can happen. Um, but I don't know. I tend to like not take these things too seriously. Like it's okay if you don't like a song, and you
Yeah,
can move
exactly.
on.
That's what how I kind of don't like Marshmello. Do you know Marshmello?
I know he's like a DJ, and I've
Yeah,
seen
and
him
he
like.
he used to make he used to make like happy and bright future bass songs. And
Mhm.
but like a few years ago he started to make hip hop and house and I was like, why is he doing this? He's losing his style.
Okay,
And that kind of upsets me. Like why are you doing that?
I
Be,
understand.
only because like it's a popular genre and it makes more money.
Hmm.
But like
Like when an
some
artist
artists
completely.
has a pretty successful transition, such as The Weeknd. He used to make R&B songs, but now he's making like kind of disco and you know
Hmm.
um, like 80s house songs, and it's still pretty good. Maybe because like I came across him from the beginning of he making the release of After Hours and now Dawn FM. Like I really like these two albums, and I'm still waiting for the last part of his trilogy. He just announced that it's gonna be a trilogy album, and
That's really cool.
yeah,
Like the concept of like a trilogy
and
album.
and Dua Lipa is making R&B songs now. She used to make EDM pop songs, and when his what's the album called? Future
Future
Nostalgia,
nostalgia.
yeah,
Yeah.
came out, and I was like, why is she making R&B now? Like, it's not just because it's coming a thing, and
Hmm.
like you shouldn't do that only because it's becoming like one of the mainstream genres. And but
Yeah.
after that, after a few months, like I repeated listening to it, and I found out that she's actually more suitable for R&B. Like her voice,
Oh,
her
okay.
deep
So it was a good
voice, and
change.
yeah, and as well as Kanye West and the first. And I really get into him when Donda came out, and I was like, he hyped it up for so long, and it got delayed like several times for like 2 months. And when I finally got my hands on it, I was like, this is total trash. Like he
No.
just hyped
Yeah.
hyped up for nothing, and like I kind of feel
Of
like,
course. Then the disappointment is big if you're waiting for so long.
yeah, you're damaging your reputation. Like you once called yourself God, and like you're making these trash songs, but like as well as future nostalgia. After I listening to it several times, and I watched a few reviews on YouTube, and I was like, hey, this actually Like the lyrics are actually good, and the plot and the storytelling is very inspiring. Like he in the album, he went
Mm.
from struggle between his religion, his Christianity, and the world, and now, in the end, he resurrected, rebirthed, kind of
Wow.
thing. Like in the last song, he constantly saying like, "He's done miracles on me," and that really inspires me. Like I'm a Christian as well, and I can relate to that.
That's great. Like if music or like books or like any kind of media like inspires you in your personal life, that's all you kind of want sometimes.
Yeah, like that's what art for, right? Inspired and being feeling related.
Of course. At least like one of the aspects. That's true.
So when do you start to like deciding you're gonna review all these things and like became a content creator? Oh, that was
Uh,
such a difficult transition, don't you think?
true. I was like, okay, now let's talk about this again.
Oh, such a bad
um,
host.
Suddenly, no, no, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know. There was like not a big moment where I was like, you know what? Now I'm gonna start creating content for YouTube. It kind of happened, and I don't really like. I can't really explain why I started it. Like, I had this funny idea of maybe starting a YouTube channel for like a couple of years because I was watching so much YouTube, and like you saw, of course, some YouTubers become like really big and they were like able to make all their money with YouTube and stuff. So of course it's kind of like this idea you have, you know what, maybe I'm going to start a YouTube channel as well, and that's going to become my job and stuff. But I never like actually did it like all these years. But then it was pretty much a year ago, like March 2021. I don't know, I think just like the circumstances aligned. Like I was on semester break, I was reading a ton. I think right before that I had started to watch a lot of booktube because I have not been watching booktube for like years and years. I think I started it around this time last year, like a few months prior to that. And then I was reading so much in my semester break that I was like, you know what, like there's all this fun booktube content out there, and I'm reading so much, I can kind of like also talk about the books I'm reading, and it's going to be a
Well,
great time. So I guess that's just kind of like how I started. I don't really know.
so what was the process of you creating all these videos, and can you tell us about your equipment as well?
So like the process of me like producing my videos is
Yeah.
actually kind of simple. I mean, of course, you have your idea, like, or like usually it starts with a book. I read a
Mm.
book, right, and I have like idea of what I want to talk about, and then I just sit down right here. You see, this is like my usual filming background, right, in my
Cool.
room, and I'm filming on my phone. I do like everything on my phone. I film and record, I edit, and I upload with my phone. Because especially when you're just like starting out and you're kind of doing this just like for fun, etc., you don't want to buy big and expensive equipment. Of course, you kind of just like use what you already have to kind of like make this work.
Mm.
And I think so far I'm having like a good time, just like me and my iPhone in my room. That's all I need kind of to create my content. And yeah, that's kind of like my routine. I have always like a little list of like content ideas I have based on the books that I'm reading or I plan to read next. And then I just like read the books, and then I record, and then I edit, and then I upload, and then it's that cycle all over again.
Do you have outlines while you're making videos, or you're just freestyling?
I'm always just freestyling, to be honest. Like the only video I have like written down like notes for was my like introduction to like Japanese murder mysteries, because I did like a little bit of research on like people and like when they were like born, etc., and like the different styles of Japanese murder mysteries. I wrote like a couple of notes for that and tried to work with them, but actually because I usually like freestyle my videos, I was kind of like having a hard time. Like I always kept like looking at my notes, like, wait, what did I write here? Then, okay, now I gotta say it. So I definitely like prefer to do it just like all casually. I'm just doing this like casually. It's just like
Cool.
supposed to be like my videos. They're not like highly produced or anything like that. I don't have like any illusions about that. So it's just like me kind of like sitting down, casually talking about the books I'm reading. That's really all it is.
So have you ever struggled between like the things you want to talk about, or like you're afraid like nobody's interested in the things you talk about, and you have to make the videos for the your subscribers and like kind of like pleasing them?
I think especially when you start out and you're still really, really small, you actually do not have that pressure because it's kind of like
Yeah.
not a lot of people are watching my videos anyway, so to say, especially
Mm.
like in the very, very beginning when you have like 2 subscribers, right?
Mm.
So you might as well just make videos about the stuff you want to talk about because no one's no one cares about what you talk about anyway, kind of. So you can just do whatever you want to do. And I still definitely do it that way still. Of course, sometimes I have these ideas where I'm like, okay, this might be an idea that appeals to more people, especially, for example, if it includes like a celebrity or like a famous movie or TV show that you're like, okay, a lot of people like this piece of media, this person. So if I can like create content around this person or like this piece of media, it might attract more people. But also like these things, they don't always work out. So you should never like count on it, I feel like. So and with that way of thinking, you might as well just do what you want to do. So yeah, so far it has been working out pretty nicely. I think I was really happy, especially that my Agatha Christie videos have been doing kind of well because that's like 100% what I want to do. I love
Cool.
myself some Agatha Christie and like my murder mysteries. So that it was especially like this like really really niche content that kind of like popped up. I was really happy about that.
There was a quote said by Kanye West like a long time ago, back in his 20s, when he was just a producer and he's making his first album, and he said that I can just do whatever. He's gonna make an album, and he was like, I can just do whatever I want because I can always make money as a producer. So
Okay.
that's the kind of the message you wanna like you're talking about.
I suppose I don't know if I really want to be that closely associated with anything Kanye West says because I have like some questionable views on him to be honest. But I guess like the sentiment. I mean, especially like when you're still so small, you're not making any money with this. You're just like making this because you enjoy it,
Yeah,
because you're having a
exactly.
good time. So that's like really what you can focus on. I mean, I don't know, like it probably changes once you're like a really big YouTuber maybe and you're making all your money with it, then you kind of have to think about, okay, like what's going to get me like a lot of clicks so that I can pay my bills kind of.
Yeah.
But right now I don't have any pressure of that sort because I don't make any money. I'm just doing this for myself. So I might as
Cool.
well do what I want to do.
But even you don't profit from YouTube, but you're still like constantly uploading. Like
That's true. But the only reason why I do it and why I can also keep it up so consistently is because I genuinely enjoy it. If like you try to start this and you actually don't really enjoy the process of like making videos and like editing them and uploading them, you will never be like able to keep this up to a point where you might actually start making money from it. So the only reason you can really get this to work, I think, is if you like genuinely enjoy the kind of stuff you're creating, the content you're creating. And because that's the case still, I am having like a good time uploading like once or even twice a week because I'm actually like excited about the videos I'm creating, the ideas. I'm like, oh yeah, I get to talk about this and it's gonna be a good time. And I enjoy editing and like creating the thumbnails because all of that is fun for me. And I'm okay with spending like a lot of my personal free time with that. I have been able to keep it up so consistently for like a year now. Because like yeah, the point all of that stops being fun for you, while you're still not in any way, shape, or form being like compensated as to money yet for it. Um, Chances are you're not going to be able to keep it up until the point where you can actually start making money because you will not like invest all of that personal time of yours because it's not going to be fun for you.
so, let's talk about the future of this channel. Like, um, how where are you going to take us? Like, is are there going to more books or coffee shopping?
So I plan to take you on a wild ride now. So in the present moment, there are still a ton of books that I want
Yeah.
to read. I still have like a lot of fun video ideas surrounding these books. So right now, I don't see myself running out of ideas as to like book content wise. As you have already noticed, I do love my coffee shops as well. So I will always be trying to like include them in like like reading vlogs, reading at a cafe, or like making like the occasional cafe
Like
hopping vlog here
lifestyle
and there
stuff.
because exactly because I also really enjoy watching that kind of content and also creating it. So I definitely want to intermingle it like a little bit, but the focus is still
So
on
literature.
my books. But the thing is because I do genuinely read like every day, etc. Even like when I'm making like a vlog,
Hmm.
like literature is still going to be included because I'm always reading something.
Yeah,
So yeah, books are not gonna disappear from this channel anytime soon.
yeah, I can expect that. And you just came back from London, right?
That's right.
Did you go to Tesco?
I actually did not go to Tesco, but why are you asking?
I'm just making another hard transition.
No, a transition into supermarkets or what is that? Do you miss the food or something like that?
No, the food sucks.
No, but still, you love the atmosphere
Um,
of Tesco.
and
Is
the
that
second
it?
time I went there, the Big Ben was wrapped up in repairs. I can barely see the watch face.
Oh, I'm sorry for that because right now I think only quite recently it's like out of scaffolding again. So I was like really surprised to see it because like the last couple of times it was still wrapped up.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, he's out again. But yeah, I felt really sorry for everyone who came to London during the time it was like wrapped up.
Have you traveled a lot?
Yes, actually, because like traveling, exploring different, I don't know, cultures, countries, everything is like another big passion of mine. So like after high school, I took some time off to travel, and I had wanted, of course, like in like because right now I'm studying, and I had like these grand plans on also like exploring different countries in my like, semester breaks, but due to COVID, that didn't really happen. Um, but yeah, I'm so fond of traveling, and heading into the future, I also hope to be able to do it some more now. Who knows, with like things developing.
Yeah, if I can choose like my own schedule, travel schedule, I would go to some kind of European countryside and like live there for like 1 to 2 weeks and just go to the local supermarkets and make your own food
Yeah,
and
I know
take
exactly what you're
pictures.
talking about. And you would have
Like
also like a great time, like maybe writing there or something.
yeah, that's the ideal version of traveling and living in a foreign place and like get to know people that
Yeah,
live in
really
there.
get to know what it's like living there. I know.
Like I
I
hate
hope it will work out for you.
people just going to like a big city and just you know um, like take pictures and take selfie in front of the famous
Big Ben or something
yeah
like
Big
that.
Ben,
Yeah.
Eiffel Tower, something
Yeah.
like that. And
I know what you're saying, of course. Some travel, like the way some people travel seems quite superficial, just about like I was here, I took like a picture there and now I'm
yeah,
going home again, kind of. Um it's of course, I mean, but it's also like valid if that's your way of traveling, that's fine. Like honestly, I don't care, kind of.
yeah,
But I also like to be able to spend more time in like a different, especially if it's like completely different from where I grew up, then it's
mm.
especially important to me to spend like a longer amount of time there so I can like really get to know what it's like living there and not just do kind of like the tourist highlights and then be out again.
We're about to wrap up this interview. Thank you for attending.